Bill Nichols here. So in the last video before the giveaway, I did a video on the picture styles that you can use on the Phantom 4. I went through on video how you can use D-Log, which is the one that I use, along with Cine-like, None, Art, Vivid, and then I think Black and White is the other one, just off the top of my head. So during that video, I told you that I would bring in two of the photos that I did where I shot JPEG plus RAW, show you why I shoot RAW in photos and why I think that you should too, and what you can do with those photos. So let's just jump right into it. I've got, this will be kind of like a little mini Lightroom tutorial. I'm not going to go really deep into how I'm using the tools. You'll see, I'll tell you the shortcuts that I'm using, what tools that I'm using and why. And you'll pick up a little bit there. I'll have more in my whole entire Lightroom series coming up. This will give you a little bit of idea of my thought process whenever I go to edit. So let's just get started here. So I've got these two photos. Let's just bring them up in Lightroom. Let's compare them. So I can click this XY, which is the side by side. And they come up. They're the only two photos there, so they're going to pop up. So immediately I know for some people when they first see these two photos, the one on the left here that says select, they're going to think that that one's much better than the one on the right. But if you really look at it, the one on the right is the raw, no processing done by the Phantom on that. It's just the sensor gathering the data, writing the raw file out, and then Lightroom is interpreting that raw file. And then on the left hand side is the JPEG processed one, and on this instance we were in the vivid setting. So this is vivid in the Phantom, and then the one on the right is no processing. So the main reason, you can see it right here, and I'll just do a quick explanation why I shoot raw, is that the one that's on the right, if I want to bump the colors, I can bump the colors, and I have all of this range. If I want to take the colors away, I can take the colors away. If I want to do a black and white, I don't have all of this processed color that's going to be sitting in these channels over here on the JPEG that's going to affect how the black and white is going to look. If I want to change the exposure or the contrast in the sky, I'm not going to get the noise on the raw file that I'm going to in the JPEG, and I'll show those examples here really quick. So the other thing is, if we look at these, let's go to Show in Finder. We can see these two files. Now this is named .kpg, .jpeg. I had to give it a different name because it wouldn't come into Lightroom otherwise. For some reason I was having an issue, so I just gave it a little bit of a different name, brought it in. So you can see it's 7.1 megs, where it's 24.4 megs for the raw file. Big difference in the amount of data there. Let's take a look and see what we can see. So right off the bat in here, like this sky, this color of blue, this kind of, it almost looks like a blue raspberry airhead. This isn't the real color of our sky, obviously. The one on the right is more likely what the sky is going to look like. We come down here to a couple of things like the yellow on this house here. That's not how poppy that kind of yellow is, even though that's muted, kind of beige. But if you look at the green on the trees here, like that green where the hand is, that's a crazy green. That tree is not that color green, and that fire hydrant does not glow that kind of radioactive yellow. Where if we come over here, this is much more how the scene really is. So yeah, that's a green tree and it's a yellow fire hydrant, but it doesn't look like it's had radioactive waste poured on it, or that somebody took a highlighter, a neon highlighter to it. One of the other things that we can look at is some detail. So let's look at the detail in this first tree right here, or maybe let's go to this tree right over here. It's right there in the wall. So we've got this one right here. So you can see the individual branches, you can see some of the detail there. Let's go to the same tree over here, see how big of a difference. It doesn't look like too big of a difference, but it definitely looks muddier. So if you look in the middle, like in this area where the colors kind of come together, I think it definitely looks muddier. Then over here, you get a bit more saturation, a bit more separation. You get a little bit more detail. You can see the individual pieces of the tree more, where all that color isn't kind of clumped together. So let's go through a quick edit. I'm going to do a really quick edit on the raw file. I'm going to show you a couple of options. I'll show you why I would use the raw file, and then we'll make some changes on the raw file, bring those changes over as well onto the JPEG, and then so that I can show you like what you can do with the sky in the raw file that you can't in the JPEG. So let's just start there. I'm going to go into develop. Well, let's just choose a single picture. I'm going to go into develop in the raw file. One of the first things that I would do is just change the sky. So I use a graduated neutral density filter, and basically what that is you could imagine, you saw the neutral densities filters before, imagine if those just had like a line and half of it was dark and half of it was clear. That dark part would change the amount of light coming through in that area, but the bottom part would remain like it is in the scene. So we kind of want to do that here. So if I grab this and pull it down, let's grab it here. We'll really quickly, I'm just going to shut the exposure way down so you can see what this does. So right off the bat, you can see I'm going to hold down Shift. Shift locks it straight. So you can see how it's darkening the sky here. I can just come right down to the horizon. And one thing to note, if I bring this all the way across the picture, now that it goes evenly across the picture, I can slide this up and down. Right, so I want a little more drastic line than that, so I'm just going to slide this up and make the filter smaller in size. So you can see now what the range is that I have here. Let's go ahead and rotate this. I'm going to rotate this so it's about the same as the horizon. Not the horizon, but the mountains that are there. You just bring it right down to the edge. Now I wouldn't change it this much, so let's go like this. Let's bring this up just a couple of stops. So we're at about, let's go to minus 0.75. It's about 3/4 of a stop off. Now if we just turn that off really quick, so let's just undo it. Oop. Let's go forward. Let's just reset this. So there it is without the graduated neutral density filter. There it is with. Now one thing that also did was it added this it added some darkness down here into the city, and I don't want to do that. So I can bring up that graduated neutral density filter. I can then click on it. I can see my mask. Now over here, this is new with Lightroom CC 2015, one of the updates. So I have my mask, graduated neutral density filter. I can now, and I wanted this feature for so long, I can now choose brush, and I can brush away. So here's my brush, so I can add to it. So like down here, I could click and add. Let's undo that, Control Z. But if I hold down Option right now, you'll see my brush change to a minus. So now if I click, I will brush that neutral density filter away from this area that it was applied. So let me change the feather here on this brush. I don't want much of a feather. I don't want it to be quite that big. So now I can come in here and just really draw this away right on the edge without trying to get much of a halo. Normally I'd be doing this with my Wacom tablet, but today for this quick edit I'm just using the mouse. Just kind of run through some things here. There. So now if we look in here, we can see that the mask is totally changed. It's come on. There. Now you can see it's mostly the sky, just the edge of the mountain. And there it is. So let's do a reset. There it is before, there it is after. Now let's do a couple of things. Let's go back on that neutral density filter. Let's add a bit of detail in the sky. So maybe let's look at if we affect the whites. So we can bring the whites up a little bit, make the clouds a little wider. All that that's doing is that's only affecting the whites. It's not affecting the blue. It's affecting the white that's in the blue, but it's not affecting the blue itself. Let's add some clarity in there. Make it a little bit sharper. And that's going to also have the side effect of adding a little contrast. So actually, let's do that. Let's bring a little contrast in. And I think that looks pretty good. It's a little bit heavy-handed, so I'm just going to desaturate it just a little bit. Not too much. I don't want it to look like a crazy sky. So we went from that to that. Now let's take this and let's paste it over into the other one, and let's see, I'll show you what I'm talking about in the sky. You'll see the difference in the amount of information that you have there. There's not as many colors, or at least not a rich gradient of colors like there's in the raw file. So when I apply this, I expect to see some noise. So on this image, if I want to take all of my settings that I've done and move them to another image or select settings, I can hit Control C. It's going to pop up with copy settings, and these are all your choices. Right now we've only done that graduated neutral density filter, so I'm just going to say copy, check all of them, copy all of them. I'm going to come over to my other image. I'm just going to hit Control V, and now it applies it. So there it is before, and there it is after. So this is going to be a great example of why we would want to use the raw file over the JPEG. So let's zoom in on this, like around the clouds. So see all that noise that is in there? I expected it to do more halos around the clouds, but all of that all of those dots, all of that noise, and just the splotchiness of the colors. Now if we come over here to the raw file, let's zoom into about the same area right here. And you can see like there's a little bit of noise, but it's probably like 10% of the noise that was in the other file, and it's just much, much smoother. That's the reason that you want to work with the raw. Not only that, but now my base point, I've added this color to the sky. If I wanted to strip it out, I could. If I wanted to just reduce it some, I could. But over here in the JPEG, if I start doing that, I don't have the information there. I'm going to start seeing a lot of artifacting. So the same way that I made the sky a little darker, I want to brighten this scene up a little bit from the bottom. So you can see again how this is, I've got it, it's set to like 4 stops down, but I'm going to bring this up this way. I don't want it really affecting the sky much. Let's bring this to 0. So right now, this is exactly how it is. I'm just going to bring it up like 0.33 maybe. So just a little bit there. And then the same way, I'm going to bring shadows maybe up a little bit. I'm going to add just a little bit of clarity. Let's actually take the temp back to 0. And then maybe a little bit of sharpness here. So if I go crazy, right, you can definitely see it. I don't want to do that. I'm going to add maybe about 7 to 9 on the sharpness. So as I come in here, this is a little bit brighter than it was, so let's hit reset. So you can see, look at the bottom of the image. Let's redo that. We just add a little bit in there. And then I do want to change this actually to daylight. Let's see how that is. And let's just cool it down a little. It got a little bit too warm for me. So right about there. So, and then I like to do, on most images, a medium contrast curve. There, I think that looks great. So now we've started. If we hit reset, we started there, and now we're there. So let's just do this. We'll right click over here, create a virtual copy. Let's, on the original image, let's reset this. Let's go into the library module so we can do this XY comparison. Let's just compare the two. So there we are. So you've got the file over here. Now it's not a drastic change, but you definitely, like, if we look here at our detail on the roof versus our detail on the roof, you know, a bit more detail over here because we added some sharpness. You know, more color in the sky, a little more detail in the clouds because we brought that exposure down so the whites aren't washed out. A little more richness down here, a little more color. I think overall that looks pretty good. There's one more thing that I want to do that I'll show you. So let's go to develop. So Lightroom right now doesn't have a profile for the Phantom 4 for lens correction, but what it does have, let me close this down, is I can come down here to profile correction or lens corrections, enable a profile. I can choose DJI, and now I can say Phantom 3. So I'll just do that. And what you'll see here, let's see if we see anything. Yeah, so here you can see how the middle of the image, if you look at the middle of the image when I do the lens correction, right now you don't notice it, but it's kind of a little bit of it's a little bit spherical. So when I hit lens correction, it just pops that back. So you can see that little bit of distortion going away. And that looks a little bit better, that looks more true. So you can see how, like, at the bottom, like the verticals are kind of pushed out. We go there, they come back in. And the one thing that I like to do on the highlight priority, I like to take the amount and just bring it down just a little bit. Not that much, just like literally like -4. It just gives a very slight vignette that I feel like it pulls you more into the picture. So overall now this picture looks pretty good. Definitely better than that, than the Vivid. Here, let's apply that same lens correction here. Just so it's kind of apples to apples. There we go. And so there's our raw file. There's our Vivid. Now, of course, you could tweak your color styles, but my whole point about shooting raw is that now that base that I'm at with 24.4 megabytes of information on this particular image, I have a lot of latitude to go really artsy with it or to bring it down really subdued. So if I wanted to do a black and white out of that, the black and white is going to be much better. It's going to process a lot better. If I want to take it out to somewhere and process it in a different program, then bring it back, I'm going to have a lot more information there. If I want to print it, I'm going to be able to print it bigger. If I want to blow it up, maybe using like Topaz Resize, I have a lot more data there to blow it up and do a much larger image that I'm going to in the JPEG. And these little, these little chips now that are, these little cards that are 32 gigs, there's no reason to not shoot raw. Disk space is so cheap. Most of your computers can handle it. It's a bigger file, but it's not crazy. And I would just shoot raw as much as you can, and then take those files and dig in in Photoshop by using Adobe Camera Raw, or dig in Lightroom or in Capture One. They're all, you know, good programs. Personally, for processing the file, I use Lightroom or Capture One. The DJI, I just find that I bring it into Lightroom. I work in there. My Hasselblad or my Canon, I bring the stuff directly into Capture One. So there's a quick edit. If you have any questions around this, as always, ask me. I try and answer all the questions. I try to reply to just about everybody. If you have any suggestions for future videos, let me know. Number of the videos lately and the number of the videos coming up are viewer suggestions. I really appreciate you taking the time to watch. This Friday, I'll be posting a review of something for the Phantom 4 that you'll be able to use and get some good use out of, and it'll also be my next giveaway. So stay tuned. I'll be posting a video every day this week. I really appreciate the time that you've taken to watch the videos. You keep watching. I'll keep making them. Like, share, and subscribe, and thanks a lot, and I'll talk to you later.